Morning, everybody. We're just going to get going here and okay, I guess we're going. I've got the point. Good morning and welcome to the Administration and Operations Committee meeting for February the 20th, 2024. As far as attendance, we have regrets from the Mayor and from Councillor Miller. We've got Councillor Garneau joining us on Zoom, and Councillor Kyle will be coming in partway through the meeting. She will be on Zoom as well. As far as approval of the agenda, does anybody have anything to add to the agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve? Councillor Coleman, Councillor Oakley. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest. If anybody has any, just let me know right now, or if some come up through the meeting, just be sure to let me know prior to. Delegations. We do have a delegation today, and it's a public meeting for notice of consideration for the engineer's drainage report for the Bennett Municipal Dam. There's a couple things with this. This is a public meeting, so I am going to declare the public meeting as open. We are going to have the engineer, I believe, come up and speak through it. Then there will be some questions of clarification to the engineer if you do have any, and then it will be open to members of the public. I know we have, I believe we have a couple online, and if there's any folks here in the audience that wish to speak to this report, they will have time to do so at once we're finished the question period. So first of all, is it going to be Jacob coming up? Or okay, so I'd like to welcome Jacob to come up and present the Burnside and Associates Limited report. Thank you. So if we could just state your name for the clerk, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jacob Rook. I'm here on behalf of RJ Burnside and Associates to present the Bennett Municipal Drain.
Can I just ask you one favor? Just tilt that mic up a little bit. We just want to make sure everybody online hears you. And the green light is on, correct?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Bennett Municipal Drain. And I believe everyone, the councillors, have received a digital copy of the report, so I will be going over it briefly, and then again we'll be open for questions after. So the authority. So Burnside was appointed by the County of Brant on August 13th, 2021 in accordance with Section 78 and Section 4 of the Drainage Act. We also received two additional appointments dated March 28th, 2022 and July 25th, 2023 in accordance with Section 4 of the Act. So I'm going to show the watershed plan just to give a brief overview of what we are proposing. So this is the watershed plan, and you can see the thick black line around the outside is what we've delineated as the municipal drain's watershed. And then going through is the main drain. Branch A is at the north end of 9th Concession Road. And then we have Branch B, which services the hamlet of Harley, Branch C to the south of Harley, and then Branch D running north-south along Middle Town Line Road. So the history of the Bennett Municipal Drain. So it was originally constructed under a report by W.H. Fairchild, a civil engineer dated September 15th in 1911. This authorized the construction of the main drain, Branch A and Branch B. Later, the Bennett Municipal Drain was improved by a report under John B. Dodd in 1968. So approximately $70,000 has been spent on repairs to the Bennett Municipal Drain since 2010, and it's currently not functioning as designed. So some findings that we have found throughout the process, throughout the works on the Bennett Municipal Drain, is that it's made up of approximately 211 meters of open drain at the very southern end, and then 2,850 meters of closed drain, which outlets into the Martin Municipal Drain. The Bennett Municipal Drain services the hamlet of Harley and the surrounding agricultural lands with an approximate watershed area of 210 hectares. The system's in poor condition and it's undersized compared to current design standards. And as you can see with the picture on the left, the bottom left, I'll say, there's a large blowout which is on the Fernandez property. And blowouts of this type are seen throughout the drain, and standing water is also seen as well. So recommendations of the report. So we're recommending that the main drain be improved from the north side of 9th Concession Road to the outlet at the Martin Municipal Drain, and that Branch A and the main drain upstream of 9th Concession Road shall be governed by the 1968 report, meaning no works are required at this time. And that Branch B be improved in its entirety, and then authorize and construct branches C and D. So a project cost summary. We're estimating that construction cost is going to be roughly $935,000. Engineering would be roughly $205,000. Estimated property owner allowances are around $33,000, and then sundry and other costs are around $123,000 for a total project cost of $1,294,000. And then if there's any questions, I'd be happy to take them now.
Okay, thank you for that. Committee, any questions of clarification? Councillor Chambers?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering if the engineer could explain the engineer's cost of doing the report and the work that they've done, and how that is to be billed to the property owners.
Jacob?
So the engineering costs are made up throughout the entire project. This includes all the required meetings under the Drainage Act, including the on-site meetings, so the preparation for the on-site. It also includes the topographic survey of the drain locations, any discussion with landowners and work throughout the process, the design of the municipal drain, the cost estimating and the assessments. The engineering cost is also made up in the tendering and the construction inspection and administration of the drain. The engineering cost could also include the property owner allowances and the calculations involved in that, and then the production of the final report. And then how it gets billed out. Paul, I may need some clarification on this, but I believe that what occurs is the bill with the engineering will be lumped in with the entire report costs, and then it will be billed out to the owners.
That is correct. Okay. Councillor Chambers?
Will it be billed out according to the assessment schedule, or will it be billed out as a block amount equally amongst all property owners?
Jacob?
The engineering will be billed out as per the assessment schedule.
Councillor Chambers?
And just to follow up, because is that a common practice?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Any other questions from committee? Okay, seeing none, we are going to open this up to the public now. We have a couple of folks online, but I just want to remind everybody that the assessments of the engineer contained within this report are not open for appeal at this time. The assessment appeals are to be heard at the Court of Revision that's scheduled March 26th. If the report is provisionally adopted today, it will be March 26th that the appeals will be heard. So I just want to make that clear before we start. Okay, we're going to start online. Amy Fernandez, are you online?
Yep.
Okay. So if you would just state your name for the clerk, state name and address for the clerk, and a reminder you have 10 minutes.
Yeah, my name is Amy Fernandez, and our property is 134 Harley Road. And I actually don't really have any comment. I was just here more for informational purposes, but I just maybe do have one question then on that cost associated with the engineering fees. Can I just confirm then it's separate to the estimated costs we received for the project costs?
Jacob?
The engineering costs are included in the assessment that you've received. The engineering costs are included in the estimate.
Okay, so it's not an additional cost then?
No, it is not an additional cost.
Okay. That's great. I didn't have any other questions. Thanks, though.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Amy. Also online, Trish Bureau. Trish, can you hear us?
Hi there. Hi there.
Okay. Again, Yeah.
I'm kind of in the same position as Amy. I am Trish Biro. I live at 137 Harley Road, and I am here for informational purposes only.
Okay, we appreciate you guys being here. Okay, so there's no further delegations online. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak to this? If you could come up to the podium, please, and just state your name and address.
I'm Joanne Neuenhuisen at 261 Middletown Line Road. And the only question is that I have is the difference in the cost from when we first had the meetings to when the report came out. There's about a $6,000 increase in cost for us. Where did that come from? And I guess my next question is, how can we pay for it? Is it one lump sum, or can it be spread out through a couple of years?
Okay, what we're going to do is we can get an answer to your second part of the question here. Mr. Walton?
Through Chairman Pierce of the committee. Generally, when the bylaws pass for a drain of this magnitude, we do offer financing costs, financing options for the landowners on the project. And in the order of magnitude of this, I think we would need to consider whether or not it was 5 years or 10 years was the actual financing options. And I'm looking to our treasurer over there on that. So financing options will be offered to the landowners.
Okay. And on the first one, I think what we're going to do is we're going to see if there's any other questions, and then we'll get you guys back up to answer them all. Okay, thank you for that. Is there anybody else? I'm going to ask for a second time. Is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak to this? If you could come up to the podium, please, sir. State your name and address.
Hello, good morning. My name is Brian Van Dormel. I live at 216 Middletown Line Road. I'm property number 40, I think, 48 on the list. We bought the property 3 years ago. The backyard's been flooded with water ever since. It's one of the residential home properties that backs onto the main farm where the main drain runs right through. So the main drain's been backlogged for a long time. And I could see that other branches are running into the main drain ahead of our property. So for us, the only way that our property will ever be a sustainable property where you can actually play in the backyard and grow a garden, things like that, you're welcome to come and take a look anytime. It's a swamp back there. There's water. My neighbors are the same. And you know, this is not a question of whether the drain is needed. It's been there for over 110 years. So the drain is needed. It needs repairs. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate your comments, sir. Okay, I'm going to ask again, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak to this report? I'm going to ask a third and final time. Is there anybody in this audience that wishes to speak to this report? Okay, seeing no further questions from the audience, from the public, I am going to declare the public meeting closed. Oh, yes, sorry, my apologies. We do have to answer the question in regards to the difference in the cost from the first meeting until now. Thank you.
So I will speak to the project as a whole. I can definitely talk to you after in more detail about your specific assessment, and that's something that I'll just need to look into. But as a project as a whole, when we first presented at the information meeting, we did have a project cost that was much lower than what we're presenting today. There's a couple factors as to why this is happening, and I've listed those out. Since our information meeting in July of 2023, we've received an additional petition for Branch D. And the branch D costs were not presented in the information meeting due to the fact that we had not yet received a petition for it. Additionally, we have seen a 25 to 30% increase in supply costs for construction materials. So those costs have also been incorporated into our assessments and our cost estimates for the production of this final report. And that would be partially the reasoning behind your increase in assessment. Specifically to your property, I believe that you two are located on the west side of Middle Town Line Road. And so additionally, I'll speak generally to this. Your property now has the proposed drain running through it on branch D. So there would be increased costs associated with that. And again, I can take a more of a deeper dive into your assessments, and I can contact you later and give you a bit better of an explanation to your property in specific.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Okay, I just want to note here, Councillor Kyle has now joined us online. Welcome. Okay, so there's no more from the public. There's no more from committee. There is a motion recommendation. Councillor Chambers?
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering, for the benefit of the people here and online, if the engineer could perhaps give a time frame as to when, if everything goes according to a normal situation, when they can expect the water to be going down the drain as it should.
Okay. Mr. Walton?
Through you, Chairman Pierce, to Councillor Chambers and committee. So today we're at the consideration of the report, and it's anticipated that the report would be recommended for adoption for 2 readings at the next council meeting. If that's done, then the court of revision is set up, at which time anyone can appeal assessments. If there are no assessment appeals or everything is dealt with at the court of revision, there's no further appeals. There's a time period in which you have to wait for the bylaw to pass the timing of its readings, and then we could go for tender on this project. And this project could be tendered for construction in this construction season. If there are appeals that would make its way to the tribunal, that would nix that possibility for this year, and the construction would be there would be a hearing of the tribunal, and construction would then be pushed to 2025. And I think that's the generality of what we're against here. And if, as I say, if there are no appeals to the tribunal, construction could proceed in 2024. If there are, it would be 2025.
Okay, Councillor Chambers. Okay, no further questions from committee? Okay, there is a recommendation out there. If I could get a mover and a seconder for the recommendation. Councillor Coleman, Councillor Oakley. Any further questions on that recommendation? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving on to number 5, adoption of the previous minutes. Can I get a mover? Councillor Chambers, Councillor Howes. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we're just going to give just 30 seconds here. A lot of people leaving. Okay, consent items. We have one consent item to be approved, RPT 0119-24, the award of the Paris Leachate Offload Station. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Bell, Councillor Oakley. Questions on that report? Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 2 questions. One is around the timing. I understand that this would be built before the new addition. Is there a possibility that you could build it with the new addition and avoid double construction activity?
Mr. Walton.
Through Mr. Chair to Councillor Bell, and I do have Matt Don in the audience here today who knows the ins and out of this. This was designed with the future addition in mind, the future additions at the plant in mind, and is something operational that we want to see happen. We probably would have liked to seen it happen a year or more ago, but we've had some issues in getting all the design done and the like. So operationally, we would like this constructed now, and it is all designed with what's coming in the future in mind. So if we put it off, operationally, we'll be living without that, and the issues with this will solve some of the odor issues which were occurring during operation. So this will help that happen sooner than later.
Okay, sounds like a good balance. Second question was around the trucks that come in. As Councillor Pearce will know, trucks going up and down Mile Hill have been a constant pain. I trust that this the truck route for this leachate station will not go up and down Mile Hill.
Through the chair to Councillor Bell, I'm assuming that our tender follows what the regulations on the road are, which are no trucks on Mile Hill. So yes.
Any other questions from committee? Okay, I do have one if I could. With this new station, are they still going to be required to back in, or are they going to be able to pull in and? Okay,
Matt Don will answer that question.
They'll be able to pull it forward, and there's going to be additional asphalt on site that you can back around on site after that.
That's great news. Okay, just in case anybody online didn't hear that, they will no longer have to back in, so that's good news. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, consent items to be received. We have one. It's a fire prevention activity report. Can I get a mover? Councillor Oakley, Councillor Howes. Questions? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Staff reports, RPT-0107-24, the request to negotiate the contract for the solid waste collection and processing services. Can mover? Councillor Bell, Councillor McAlpine. Questions on this one? Councillor Bell and then Councillor Oakley.
Yeah, I don't know quite how to express my concern about this. I think General Manager Walton has kind of indicated that we would see significant increases in cost. I had not anticipated we would not get more than one tender. And so perhaps if staff could just give a little bit more insight into what has happened during the tendering process, how many people we tendered to, and what the reasons were for not receiving tenders from others than Emterra.
Okay, Mr. Walton's going to start.
Through Chairman Pearce to Councillor Bell, I'll start out in this, and staff will certainly follow in. I think one of the things, and we certainly couldn't have planned this in 2017 or 2016 when the last tender went out, as to what was going to change in the industry in that period of time, and it's been, as outlined in the report, a lot. We're hitting the period here where there's a lot of uncertainty, actually, even in the transition period to the transitioning recycling to the producers. So we don't even know for our area right now who's going to be collecting recycling in the transition period, because the producers don't have their area contract in place yet. So in the period of time from January 1st, 2025 to when they take over, or when they get their other contract in place, which is, it's stated in the report, there's a period of time there where, they're going to have to do whatever. So the actual contractors in the industry don't know what they're doing necessarily, which gives uncertainty. And I think that they're all figuring out what they're doing in their own areas where they're working right now. And I think that added in, of course, the uncertainty of obtaining trucks, obtaining labor force, the cost of fuel and other things have certainly put us into a sort of a perfect storm of a bad time. And we've seen that from the other contracts which are out there. I know Councillor Oakley asked us a question just before the weekend about that too, and it provides some information. Haldeman recently put out 2023 their contract, and saw it almost double. So I'll start off with that, and my staff has anything else to add.
Want to add to that?
Is it on?
Is it green?
Yeah.
We're good.
I think Rob did a great job summarizing the concerns in the industry right now. We were hoping that we would see more bids to make it a more competitive process, but there's a lot of balls up in the air and a lot of unknowns. As we were talking about how to present this to committee and council, we thought that this proposal here to negotiate a current contract extension would allow us some time for the dust to settle, for the blue box transition to fall into place, for the service providers to understand who will be picking up recycling. It will also give us a better idea of how the City of Brantford's SSO program will fall into place as well, so we can continue to work with them to, in the future, if the County of Brant decides to move forward with that, we can lean on the City of Brantford and learn from their transition as well. And also with a negotiation, it would provide us hopefully a little bit of cost savings, because the requirement of the contractor to provide new fleet and new equipment will not be in that bid and in that pricing. Did you want to add anything?
One other item I think we heard from the contractors that were looking at our contract, where we did have in total 5 collection contractors pick up our bid. But as Rob and Andrea were saying, there is so much unknown with regards to the blue box transition, and there are already a number of those contracts which are much bigger contracts than ours out there, where we did follow up with one contractor who showed an interest during the question period but didn't submit a bid. And their concern right now was just with having enough resources on the number of things that they were wanting to bid on, where if they would have been awarded a number of them, they were concerned they weren't going to be able to deliver a product at that point in time, or a service at that point in time. So that's some of the feedback that we had heard from the industry.
Follow up?
Councillor Bell, yeah?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for that answer. I appreciate the analysis you did of why costs will have gone up or will go up. And I'm interested to hear that if we extend this contract, we're not looking at buying a new equipment. So some of the costs that we would have had to bear in a new contract, we won't bear in this extension. So there is room for negotiation. I just wondered how much there was there. But the concern I would have from a resident perspective is that every week, and sometimes it seems like every day or every week, I get a message saying, sorry, we're not going to pick your garbage up today. And there's a delay. So are we able to address that issue as well as we go into this negotiation?
We have had a discussion with the contractor. Right now, the current trucks on our road are getting to the end of their life, and that's been a number of the delays. Just to point out, I mean, we have had 2 times since the new year where collection has been pushed into the next day to complete that day's. But the other delays that you're seeing are, we put out a notice if they don't collect by 5 p.m. because that's what the regular resident is used to, coming home and seeing it off their curb by that time. So if they let us know they're aiming to complete by the end of the day, by 7 or 8 o'clock that night, but it's going to be after 5 p.m. we're putting out those notices. So that may be one reason why you're seeing so many going out very recently.
So one final thought, if I may. Given that your comment about getting new trucks in a new contract is important, and given that you're saying that the current trucks on the current contract are starting to fail on us, what are we going to do in our extended contract to ensure that we do meet our obligations? Will we think about 6-day pickup as one of the opportunities?
Yes, that is one of the options that we would explore farther with them. There was a 6-day contract pricing provided in the RFP that we did have out, but there are other efficiencies packaged with the 6-day collection routine that might drive down that price some more.
I can also add to that, as part of the procurement process, the current bidder did come and present their bid to us. And if we were going to negotiate with them, they do have some other newer vehicles that they would be able to, they're not brand new, but they would be end of life for other contracts that they could bring into our extended contracts so that the poorest fleet could move off. So there is some flexibility to increase the fleet in an effort to not have breakdowns. Another key point that they did mention was salary and wages of their staff, because it is a full manual pickup in the county of Brant. And with the negotiation, they would be looking at increasing some of the wages so that they could, with the intent of attracting and retaining staff for this contract as well.
Okay. Councillor Oakley, and then Councillor Chambers.
Through the chair, so I did email Rob Walton about this on Friday. But in the report, it's mentioned that all of the program pricing scenarios under this proposal range from an increase of 88% to 106% over the 2024 budget. Most notably, I'm interested and concerned about the organics waste collection. So I'd be interested in hearing the proposed cost details from the tender we did receive in regards to, I believe we had several options in terms of organic waste collection, including the entire county and also only our urban centers, on what the costing of that was if we were to proceed to a contract rather than to contract extension.
So yeah, with regards to the packages that they did price, we have packaged some numbers into the status quo program. So that would be for the same service that we're seeing right now with regards to weekly garbage collection, having the yard waste the same, the bulk pickup and the Christmas trees. So as presented in the report, that one for the status quo was 106% increase on our current 2024 budget to continue to deliver that same service. The first organics, or I guess the cheapest program with an organics component in it, was our countywide weekly organics collection and countywide every other week garbage collection. And that's a typical service that municipalities provide if they're going to provide an organics program, because one, you do want to try to get the participation rate with the organics program, and two, with the organics being picked up weekly, you're taking away the waste that could be more odorous, especially during the summer season. And that one came in at including the contractor's price, but we also do have the processing cost in there. That was 117% increase compared to our 2024 budget. One item that's not in that pricing is the initial capital cost to buy the bins and distribute the bins. That's around $500,000 to buy the kitchen catchers, people call them, that people will have sitting on their counter, and the rollout cart that goes to curb for weekly collection. So.
Councillor Oakley?
Just as a quick follow-up, so just to clarify, the bidder did not put in a number for just the urban area organic collection, which I believe was part of the options that we put as part of the bid.
Yes, they did put one in for just that area, and that area would have seen, again, in the urban areas, weekly organic collection, every other week garbage collection, and in the rural areas, weekly garbage collection. And actually, that price came in at 142% higher than our 2024. So it was interesting when they did present their bids, we did ask them the question, where I'm surprised, as looks like you are too, that was a higher price package than the other one. They said it really runs down to the logistics of running the trucks and how that works with the amount of farmers in the rural areas, but and also maintaining a continuous workforce day in, day out, where this would be some days they would have lighter, so they wouldn't need to necessarily have staff in for, they might be able to drop one truck, but it still required that same amount of workforce at the end of the day. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go Councillor Chambers and then Councillor Garneau.
through you to whoever. And I understand the process of negotiating an extension of a contract, and that's what we're suggesting here. You had mentioned that there are 4 or 5 other providers. I'm just wondering, the question that begs to be asked is, should we be negotiating with one of the other providers in tandem with negotiating with this provider? If that gives leverage or whatever, there's probably a reason not to, but you can maybe speak to that.
Rob?
Through the chair to Councillor Chambers. Well, we have to follow the procedures of our purchasing policy as to what we're doing here. So we actually have a contract, which goes to a certain date, and then we were having tenders on a new contract. So we really find what we got out of that tendering process not to be acceptable to go forward. So we're asking council to negotiate with our existing contractor. This is a complicated process, and if we had multiple bidders on this, we wouldn't be in the same position that we are right now, because we would be called into favoritism by all of them. But since none of them actually bid, we're in a good position to negotiate with our existing contractor to do something. So no, if we were going to do something different here, we really would need to redo our tender and go out to the public to tender again to have the process above board. Otherwise, you get called all kinds of names by the other potential tenderers.
And I expected that answer, and I understand that. So the process would be, after the extension period is lapsed, then we'd probably go to tender again and hope for the best.
That's correct. And what we hope is going to happen is the dust is going to settle in this transition period for the transition of Blue Box. You know, in the industry, they're going to get sort of this, what we'll call the steady state of what the new regime is going to be. And then we'll be in a better position that we'd have multiple contractors look at us and see us as a good bid.
Good. You're good, Councillor Chambers? Okay. Councillor Garneau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, I want to thank folks for the preceding comments about the follow-up with the other bidders. I'm wondering why the current provider, I guess, would want to even negotiate with us when they've already gone through a process wherein they've quoted all the different options, because it's my understanding from our conversation before this went out for tender that a lot of the options that are being presented right now as cost savings were also things they were asked to quote through a public process. So I'm just, it seems like we're the ones with the problem here, and kind of what incentive they would have to continue to work with us. Because if I'm hearing correctly, those who didn't close the tender chose not to, largely because of capacity issues. So presumably these folks could keep busy elsewhere rather than accept a reduced rate for services that they just requoted. And 2 other questions. I heard about perhaps that we would take some trucks decommissioned from another contract. If that's the case, who would be on the hook for repairing those? Because if they're at the end of life, they're at end of life for a reason. And perhaps as we're discussing, Councillor Oakley raised some questions about what sort of savings or cost increases these options had. It would be really helpful as a councillor to be able to see that. So as we're making decisions about how to roll out, or what the left and right are here, I guess, kind of asking if that can be presented to us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think Mr. Walton's going to start us off here.
Through the chair to Councillor Garneau. So we did have a presentation from Intera, our existing contractor. They did hold out to us that we're an important client to them, and that's why they actually are interested in extending their work with us. There's some things that are going to go forward in this whole thing of the extension of the potential extension of the contract and the work that they may get. It's quite possible they'll actually get the recycling collection in the interim from the producers as well. And that's what will really help both parties. So if we can all sort of work together on that, and actually they would be the contractor actually performing 2 contracts at one time, that's where we'll see some cost savings. And it's quite likely that'll come to fruition, although we don't know that. We're hoping on that. That's one of the reasons. The other thing is that they have this, the equipment they've got isn't in, it's 7 years old. It isn't a new condition, but they do want to keep going. As I said, they've got the potential to mix some other equipment into this to get us through the next couple of years, I guess it is, through that tender, the next tender date. Question, mixing trucks. What was the third question? I can't remember, sorry.
Sorry, just
Yeah.
as we're looking for the left and right and negotiating, if we could see what the different options, the increases were. There's a bulleted list on page 146 there. So we can decide kind of, or give staff some direction about what's palatable for the community versus the cost. That makes sense.
So through the chair to Councillor Garneau, I guess what you're asking is what more detail we could provide on that. And Councillor Oakley actually sort of asked the same question on Friday after he was reading the agenda too. So I guess as staff, we sort of deemed that in this transition period that really all of what we felt was unacceptable, and that we needed to do something different to get to where we needed to be and decide on what our future programs would be. We didn't feel ourselves in a position to be providing, that level of detail in the report because of the whole, what you're showing out of the tender, and how that could, the information that we're providing. We provide information in generalities, but not, specific bids and the like when we're not going forward with the contract. So it is a bit of a ticklish situation, and I guess we've opened this up for the discussion with council today as to whether or not we can renegotiate. We need your permission to do that. Close the tender off, renegotiate, and then bring back options to you. If there's particular things that the council wants to see or committee wants to see, we certainly can take that into mind. But we really see the future of us getting through the next 2 years as probably working with the producers, with a joint contractor for the collection of garbage and recyclables over that period of time, going to save both of us money, and not going forward with organics until the next contract. That's what we see probably this transition period. Now the transition period isn't that long. Remind me, Matt, what's the period we're talking to here? So
2027. The full transition starts on January 1st, 2026.
Yeah. No, but the transition period for the
1 year for us, January 1st, 2025 to January 1st, 2026 is the period where we're thinking Emterra will probably be hired by the producers for that short period to continue the Blue Box program that we see right now. And that's where right now they haven't awarded that bid to producers yet. So that's where we do see some significant savings and efficiencies. If Emterra can still run the exact same trucks on the same routes, then we're sharing that cost of staff and fuel and maintenance on those trucks.
I may add, through you, Chair, to Councillor Garneau, the summary and recommendation options that are bulleted in the report, if we do get approval to negotiate with our existing contractor, we'll come back with scenarios and the associated costs to get direction from committee on which way to go forward.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Garneau, you're good? Okay, thank you. Any other questions from committee? Okay, seeing none, I've got a comment and a question myself. I guess my comment is along the lines of Councillor Bell there, because I too get the calls as to why is our garbage not picked up again? And I have a tough time with that one. I appreciate the fact that potentially their fleet is going, end of life. That's fine. But at the end of the day, they still have a contract that they need to fulfill. And it just seems that it just seems to be happening more often in the last, I'd say, 6-8 months, that we're hearing that, we're getting the email and getting the calls that it's not picked up, it's not picked up. And I know we have some sort of clause that there's penalties involved and stuff like that. So what I would like to understand, if at all possible, I would like to understand, even if we went back to the last year, as to how many times we've actually invoked that clause where we've had some sort of chargeback, just so we can, let our constituents know that it's not going unseen. There are penalties, and we are sticking to the penalties and going back with them. So I'm not sure how much work that would be to get that for the last year as to how many times, but that would be, I feel that'd be beneficial to get that information back out to the public on that. My question is there anything that we've learned from this tender in the sense that we've had, as it says, 5 collection agencies pick up our bid, yet only 1 bid on it? And I appreciate the times are, a little unsettled with what's going to happen with the blue box and all that kind of stuff there. But have we learned anything that we might do things potentially differently the next time we go for tender? Because that's I don't know if there's something wrong, or if it's just the fact that these companies out there are afraid to bid on it. The bottom line is they're just afraid to bid on anything new right now. So we only get 1 bid, and that's our current contractor out of 5. That's on the outside looking in, that's troublesome. I'm just wondering if it's just the lay of the land, or is there something that we can look to do differently in the next tender? Rob?
Through the chair to the chair. I think there's 2 pieces of reality we've got to accept as we go forward in this. One is we're seeing a big increase in this, but our current contract we have is very economical for us. In 2017, early 2018, we started the contract. We had some weather issues, some other issues where we had some problems. I said to a lot of people, I said, we're not looking to fire them because we'll pay a lot more when we go out to tender again. So we, that tender really had no increases from the contract before in cost. So that's one thing. The second thing is we're not a big contract, so we're not the region of Waterloo or something like that where they're going out and they're collecting for 600,000 people or something like that. So we need to fit in with something else that's on it. Somebody come in and do this on their own. Like, we don't have we'll call them the mom and pop contractors anymore that do this business. When they look at the 5 that picked up, they're all big firms that have, multi-big contracts. So I think we need to position ourselves right for the next one. We're a contract that somebody wants to have, but it needs to fit in with other business that they have too. So it's not just somebody's going to come here and not be around here or whatever. So I think that those are a couple of things. And then the whole perfect storm of where we're at in the transition of things happen in the industry with trucks and whatever, wages and the like, I think is all hit us at the same time. So I think if we can negotiate our way to get done this one and make our way through that, we can put stuff in the next contract if you want to have more stuff in there so that we've got more, reliability of pickup or whatever, but you pay for that when you do it. So we got to remember those things. Everything you ask for that you have to make sure that it happens, you're not going to have the notification about it. They have another truck in the fleet to do that. You pay for that truck. So is everything we've had been so bad? I think we got to look at it and that too. It isn't great to see those notifications, but as Matt said, some of those notifications are a warning that they're going to be late, but they do get the pickup done that day. So I think getting some data on how many times that's happened, how many times we've actually invoked the liquidated damage would be good information for council. It isn't as much as you would think.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I can add to that, we did learn another piece of important information about our current service contract. I mentioned earlier that it's fully manual, which means we have laborers throwing the bags of garbage into the trucks. A lot of contractors are no longer interested in that type of collection service. They want to be looking at an automated service level because it's easier for them to retain staff. So that's another thing that we've been talking internally about as we move through over, if we were to get an extension to negotiate and start discussing options about the future of solid waste servicing in the county of Brant, that's another option that we would be putting on the table as an automated collection, which would incur a capital investment as well. It does require additional infrastructure on the sides of the trucks, as well as providing each resident with a specialized bin. But the contractors would be more interested in bidding because it's easier for them. It's more efficient for them, it's safer for them, and it's easier for them to retain staff.
Okay, I appreciate that. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and more just a comment. And I got no skin in the game with Emterra, but I'll take this contractor any day over the previous contractor that we used to have. I can't even remember who it was, but on Ward 5 usually picked up on a Wednesday. My phone never stopped ringing on a Wednesday afternoon because the garbage didn't get picked up. So I'll take Emterra any day. And if you're in business and you're running mechanics, you know things break down. That happens.
Appreciate that. Councillor Oakley, final comment.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious. I'm not really a big fan of how we're working with these wishy-washy numbers, and I understand how it's challenging because we only got the one bid and our procurement process and not wanting to reveal all of the direct information. I'm curious whether or not we can get a confidential Friday file, in-camera report next week or something with the actual concrete numbers of all the options and how it breaks down and what the costing was. Just some back of the napkin math on what the organic waste increase would be, just looking at that in a vacuum. I'm confident many residents would say that they want to pay it, but I would like to be able to actually look at those numbers rather than working in percent increases and not being able to talk directly about these things. So if that's possible, I would like that.
Rob?
Through the chair to Councillor Oakley, we'll have to get back to you on what format we could provide some information, and can't 100% answer that right now. We had a big debate on this over the last, I don't know, since we got the tenders as to what we could actually report. And we involved our people from corporate services in that discussion too. So we'll see what we can do, and we'll report back to council somehow, or committee. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, some good dialogue there. So we do have a recommendation that's moved and seconded. Seeing no more questions, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving on to 8.2, RPT 0108-24, the Blue Box transition. Service recommended for ineligible source. I don't know if you want to speak to it or just answer questions.
I can give a quick summary on it.
Sorry, can I just get a mover to get it on the floor? Councillor Howes, Councillor Coleman, sorry, go ahead.
Through you, Chair, just a quick summary. So again, going back to the Blue Box transition, the producers of the new Blue Box program, they're only responsible to collect residential Blue Box generated material, not anything from the ICI sector. Currently, the county does pick up from commercial properties if they're on an existing residential route along that area, where those are the properties that we're really speaking to in this report, that no longer would they be provided that Blue Box collection service through the new producers program. And we've heard many times that information from the producers that they don't want to touch commercial, and they're not regulated yet by the government province to do that. So that is one thing that AMO has been lobbying since even the talk of this program has come about 10 years ago. So that's what this report is discussing. What impacts does the reduction of that service have on those, what I've estimated around 700 properties within the county that would be eligible to participate? That's not saying they are all participating right now, because we don't have that level of data exactly who was participating, but just doing a property count, there's 700 properties that could be participating in our current program.
Okay, questions? Councillor Howes, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff. This opens up a few concerns for me. I'm wondering, and first of all, recognizing that both with the solid waste pickup and the recycle, we're a tough geography. And we always have to remember that in context of the RFPs and the bids and the tenders and being appealing to a contractor. We're a tough geography, and I recognize that. This whole transition that you're talking about concerns me when I think about driving through downtown Paris on garbage and recycling day and seeing large blue plastic bags full of recyclable materials that have come out of restaurants or coffee shops or whatever that are being picked up currently. I'm envisioning a lot of that material just ending up in a landfill, because I think we're kidding ourselves if we think that some of these business owners are going to have the opportunity to throw these bags in the back of their SUV and haul it off to the dump. So I'm wondering, has there been any dialogue with the BIA leading up to this report? I'd be very interested in their perspective on this. And that's just one area. You know, there's lots of other commercial businesses that I see being caught at a disadvantage in this program, which we didn't create. But I'm just wondering if you'd speak a little bit further to that. Thanks.
Matt?
Through you, Chair. No, we haven't reached out to the BIA area on this. Talking to other municipalities that have already transitioned to the transition period of the Blue Box program. One is Haldeman. I was talking with my counterpart in there. They did do an inquiry with the properties that were being impacted, put out a questionnaire. What they found was, and they asked the questions like, would you be willing to pay for a service? And the majority of the responses that they were receiving that there wasn't a large support of payment for a curbside service, and if they didn't have the service, like you had said, it was going to go in the garbage. For most of the respondents were saying that. So that's where our review on this program, from what we've been hearing from other municipalities.
Mr. Chair, could I have a follow-up, please?
Go ahead.
So through the chair, I'd like to urge staff to take the step to engage with our BIA, maybe our Chamber of Commerce's, we have two, I think, related to the commercial properties and the impact to them. I think the result may be the same as what your counterpart in Haldeman reported, but I think it's a worthy conversation to the businesses in our community and worth the time. And but I think we're all recognizing that these recyclable materials will end up in our landfill, and that's a decision we have to carefully consider. Thanks.
Councillor Belvin, Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Howe's asked most of my questions, so I don't need to ask any more. But just to reflect on the conversation with BIAs, there are a number of BIAs that we need to talk to. It's not just Paris, it does include St. George, and I think Burford has its own little organisation, so we shouldn't miss them out.
Yeah, thank you for that. Councillor Chambers, Councillor Oakley.
Just what catches my eye with an ineligible source is farms. So, and if this resolution passes, how does that impact me, for example, that puts a blue box out there and I live on a farm? Does that mean that it's not going to get picked up anymore? Or how to explain that, because that's going to be asked.
Rob?
Explain that. Through the chair to Councillor Chambers, if you're a resident, your blue box material can get picked up. And even in the downtown BIA here, there are residents here, right? Upstairs residents. Their collection will be collected. You know, this whole transition here has been a long-standing problem. I've been involved in waste management since the early 2000s, and we had a couple of BIAs where I used to work where we were doing collection that we shouldn't have been doing at all. Like, you fill in the whole truck from two businesses. Now that was never intended to be the case. So these, you know, the businesses we're talking about here, we're never eligible for the money from the producers for the collection. So, but every municipality collected them, and you know, it's an efficiency thing. You do it, right? But be clear, the residents here will always be collected. That's part of the program. And on farms, if you've got a residence on farm, now you can't set out at a farm where there's no resident. But what would you have there? And it's not for materials which aren't part of the program either. So, you know, if they're potentially recyclable things that aren't part of the program, then that's not eligible either. So, but at your house, you can put out the blue box come January 21st, January 2025.
Well, that's reassuring because it would be set out there anyway, hoping for the best.
Yeah.
But things like the plastic wrap on bales and stuff like that, that never was eligible. So that's not going to impact anything. So, or pesticides containers and stuff like that that are farm related. That's
or cardboard out of volume that is more than you can put in a box.
So we really won't recognize or notice any change from a farm perspective.
No. And as I mentioned, what's gone on in the BIAs has always been a bit of a, whether it's eligible or not, what's happened. And I don't know that we really ever got penalized much for what our collection costs were for what we actually did provide, which wasn't really part of the program. But it happened everywhere, and to me was quite frankly the right thing to do. But be clear, in some programs, there's places that were picked up that shouldn't have been picked up. You know, when you need your own compactor for cardboard, you need your contractor doing that, not our contractor.
Okay, Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Robin, just more generally. So, out of curiosity, how in downtown Paris here, for example, would the contractor tell the difference between a residential recyclable bag and a business recyclable bag? And just as a second sort of comment, the aspect that, as we heard from Haldeman, that mostly business owners intend to huck their recyclables in the trash is deeply concerning to me. You know, we have a climate action plan coming up later this year after we passed a pledge in 2019 that we're going to be more environmentally friendly. And I believe that climate action plan also doesn't even directly address policies like this. It's more over in regards to our facilities, but just as a whole, I have a great deal of concern about this, about us delaying our organics waste collections. So I'm not going to be able to support not continuing to offer the services for what is essentially a piss poor rollout of a provincial program that has unintended consequences that they're not thinking of. So.
Through the chair to Councillor Oakley, yeah, can't disagree with anything you said there for sure. And how do you tell the difference? You can't, but it's quite obvious when you see, if you went and analyzed a blue box from a house or from a business, whatever, it would be really pretty easy to tell over time as to where the difference was. And if it's a very small business, there's no way to tell the difference, right? If people are just having, you know, pop tins from lunch and that sort of stuff, how would you tell the difference? It's not possible. So, and I don't think that'll ever come up for question, because if that's all we're collecting, it's always the people that pushed it past the limits that are the problem, right? You know, you've got a business that needs a compactor for cardboard. They shouldn't be putting their stuff in our program and that sort of stuff. So, and on this, really, we had to bring something forward. We have to make a decision. We can't just put our heads in the sand and not do anything. And, you know, I guess council's got to make a decision. We made this decision, I guess, in the light of what we see, all our other financial problems that we got. And let's be financially prudent and go forward and maybe work on other ways to do this. I think that the drop off is a good one. You know, whether there's a way we can work with the BIA for them to have somehow collected and brought to us or something else. But we need some direction from council here as to what to do. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Chair to Councillor Oakley. we did have similar concerns as we were discussing the potential options here, understanding the ongoing budget pressures overall. We did crunch some numbers and are really just looking for direction on how to service this and help assist roll out this poor provincial change to the program. Understanding that if we do pick up scenario 2 or scenario 3, which is the BIAs or the settlement areas, that there is an increased cost to the budget on that. So.
Okay, thank you for that. We're going to go Councillor Garneau and then back to Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions and a comment, if I may, and I'll start by saying this appears to be another one of those half-baked provincial rollouts that we're stuck holding the bag for, which is unfortunate. I'm wondering right now if staff are able to speak to properties participating in our municipal collection in the industrial areas in both Keensville and the Oak Hill area. Do we currently have recycling trucks going through there? If so, how many properties might be affected? Because I guess the comment I would then make is I can't support us continuing to pick up in areas that are better organized like Burford, Paris, and St. George if we're going to leave the businesses in the less administratively organized. We don't have BIAs, we don't have business networks in some of these other communities to fend for themselves if we are going to help folks out in other areas. And if we are going to go down the path of providing in Paris, for example, I think we should look at the cost structure because it isn't fair to saddle businesses in rural areas with costs for services they don't receive.
Who wants to tackle that?
Through you, Chair. With regards to industrial areas, as I mentioned at the beginning, where right now only commercial properties that are on an existing residential route is provided the service. So like the Brantford Airport Industrial Park area where there are no residential stops on Airport Road, Aviation Ave, so no collection truck is driving through that, and a lot of the roads over in the Keensville area too.
Councillor Garneau, you're good with that?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Howes, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, this is a process question, I guess. If I'm understanding this right, this is a 2025 issue, and you are looking for direction, which I respect. But is there potential here for this to be a decision package in the 2025 budget process, or is this something you need direction on now in order for whatever contractual reasons you have?
Through you, Chair, we would need direction now because if we are going to put out a tender contract for this service, we need, again, what we're seeing with the larger collection contract, that we need to make sure that we have a company that's interested in it and what are those actual costs going to be, which right now we're looking at, that's 8 months or 10 months down the road, which we need that much time to get this in place, depending on which package we were looking at.
Okay, any other questions from committee? Seeing none, there is a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 8.3 RPT 0169-24, which is fees and charges for fire services. Can I get a mover? Councillor Coleman, Councillor McAlpine. Questions on this report? Seeing none, we'll just make Darren wait a little bit in anticipation. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 8.4 RPT 0186-24 Paris Maple Syrup Festival. The mover to get it on the floor, Councillor Howes, Councillor Bell. Questions on this? Councillor Howes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Olga. here. Is she? Oh, it's Zach. Okay. Hi, Zach. So this is a wonderful event. There are those within our community who are passionate about it, but there are also some who are critical of its location. And I had one vocal, large North End Paris merchant last year who made a point of contacting me, very frustrated that we would shut down the main artery of Paris. And do we ever look at options? And that was just one voice, and it was the only one I got in that direction, but it was a loud one. And I am wondering if there has been consideration in the past or more presently for locating the Lions Club Maple Syrup Festival perhaps in Lions Park and turning it into a more of a green space festival. And it's just one idea, but I wonder if you could speak a little bit more about the kind of discussions that have happened about location, about how the BIAs love or don't love having the booth set up in front of their stores, just so that we're prepared when people do contact us, we're prepared to be able to respond to some of those questions.
Yes, through the chair to you, Councillor House. I'll start by saying last year, just bit of an anomaly, the way the calendar fell. We had Good Friday, the festival, Easter Sunday, Easter Monday. So we think that was part of the concerns, that Saturday was the only day over a span of 4 days where you had the opportunity to go shop or what have you. So we're a little more comfortable with it because we don't have that scenario this year where Easter falls before it. Yeah, and we've had a dialogue with the Lions. Ultimately, with the upcoming Downtown Paris Master Plan, they might have to move for 2025. So it is a conversation we're having, and identifying that best spot, whether it's new permanent home or after the master plan, once the street's reconfigured, if there's a better way to do it. I know we looked at something like Lions Park. Weather was a concern there, but we certainly are exploring options in the future. And with this year's event, the BIA has been very supportive. They're actually going to co-promote it and work together to make everything maple in downtown Paris. Everything maple.
That's great. Thank you. And just hearing that the BIA, through the chair, just hearing that the BIA is supportive is a strong message. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howes. Councillor Oakley.
So you, the chair, to Zach, just as I'm the member that sits on the BIA, I'd just like to hear that the BIA is supportive, though conditional, that the BIA is still involved with things like vendor placement, which is exactly to Councillor Howes, as Councillor Howes mentioned, where in previous years we've had a clothing vendor be set up in front of one of our clothing stores downtown. So I am a little concerned that we're doing this approval before we have all that necessarily worked out, but I'm hoping that moving forward in good faith here, that the Lions Club continues to work with the BIA to ensure that it's mutually beneficial for all involved.
Any other questions from committee? Seeing none, we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving on to 8.5, RPT 0190-24, Intimate Partner in Violence and Gender-Based Violence Funding Request. Can I get a mover? Councillor Bell, Councillor Kyle. Well, it's just it's received and then which, yeah, okay. Okay, questions on this report? Councillor Bell?
Sorry, not so much a question, Mr. Chair, but just a word of thanks to staff for doing what we asked them to do, just to give us some more insight into how these numbers were built up. And I find it very helpful in when we come to make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chambers, Councillor Oakley, and then Councillor Garneau, and then Councillor Kyle.
If I understand the process, we're receiving and we'll have further discussion Thursday. Is it at the budget session?
That's my understanding. Am I correct in that? Who could comment to that? Is that correct? Okay.
So the direction given would be referred to the Thursday budget session.
Councillor Oakley?
Through you, the chair, just one request for Thursday, if we could potentially have, because initially it was broken down into the 30,000, which we did not approve, the 80,000 for Nova Media, and then the remaining were all blocked as one decision package. If we could have that sort of sectioned out, so it's just so it's more equitable, where we're sort of singling out Nova Media and grouping the others together, so we can sort of deal with it more holistically.
Okay. Duly noted. Okay. Councillor Garneau, and then Councillor Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank staff as one of the ones who spoke up with concerns about the way the information was previously brought forward. Just for the benefit of the councillors who haven't been around the table for the last few days where we've been discussing, I think we've come to a good place, especially around some of the opportunities that we have in-house to advance the commitments we made that have resource implications, but not necessarily direct budgetary implications. And I do also want to echo Councillor Oakley's request, then when it comes to funding the external groups, if we could see those as individual decisions on Thursday night rather than an aggregate package, please. And again, yes, thank you to staff.
Thank you for that. Councillor Kyle?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Through you, just a couple of comments. Again, I echo the comments of my colleagues who are thanking staff for the work they put into that. I know over the last week or so, they've done a lot of work to gather the missing information that was requested by council. I think there was several notable things that jumped out to me that I look forward to discussing in more detail on Thursday, but some of those were around the questions we had in terms of whether there's overlap in some of the services that are having funding requests for. I think it makes it very clear that while the Brant OPP does help with the criminal and the laying of charges part of it, they don't offer the services. So all of these external agencies are providing services that are distinct from each other, that all go towards supporting folks that are going through what is likely one of the most traumatic things that they can possibly go through. So I'm still, as I was during the budget meetings, very supportive of all of these requests. And I do look forward to more commentary on Thursday. Just a final comment is that it seems like a big number of money or a big amount of money when we add it all together. However, if it saves even one life, I would say that something like that is worth it. So again, I look forward to further discussions on Thursday.
Thank you for that, Councillor Kyle. Any other questions from committee? Okay, so I'm going to go back to our mover, Councillor Bell. Is there a direction regarding funding requests that you would like to put forth?
Through the chair, no, I don't think so. The recommendation is fine. We will address this on Thursday.
So you're putting forth the numbers that are in the report going through till Thursday?
Correct.
Okay. Councillor Kyle, you seconded it. You're good with that? Okay. Getting the affirmative nod there. Just so everybody knows, what we're putting forth is the numbers that are in the report to put forward to Thursday. Any further questions on that recommendation? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 8.6 RPT-0194-24 fees and charges for credit card fees. Can I get a mover? Councillor McAlpine, seconder. Councillor Bell. Any questions on that report? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Committee reports and minutes. 9.1 Sports Hall of Fame Ad Hoc Committee Report. Get a mover. Councillor Coleman, seconder. Councillor Oakley. Questions on that report? Councillor Chambers.
Just with regard to the Brant West nominee, sometimes Don Henderson Jr. and Don Henderson Sr. are referred to, so that might be a clarification that you might want to put in the report.
Duly noted. Any other questions on that report? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 9.2, Brand Heritage Report. Mover, Councillor McAlpine, Councillor Howes. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Tourism Advisory Committee Report. Councillor Oakley, seconder. Councillor Bell. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Cemetery Advisory Report. Can I get a mover? Councillor Coleman, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Chambers. Questions on that report? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Brant Connects Committee Report. Can I get a mover? Councillor Coleman. Councillor Bell. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Brant Connect Committee Minutes of January 10th. Can I get a mover? Councillor Howes. Councillor Oakley. Questions on that report? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Communications, I see none. Other business, nobody said anything about other business. Can I get a motion to go into camera? Councillor Oakley, second. Councillor Howes. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll take a quick 2-minute break. Okay, welcome back. We are back in open session. Seeing nothing else on the agenda, the next meeting is March 19th. Oh, Councillor Chambers.
And just before you adjourn, Mr. Chairman, just two announcements for members of council. The SCORE annual meeting, everyone is invited. It is on February 29th from 1 o'clock to 3:30 at the office in Tilsonburg. And as well, the annual general meeting of Long Point Conservation Authority is March the 1st, which is a Friday. Same place, same time.
Okay, thank you for that. Anything else for the betterment of the county? Motion to adjourn?